Good evening. Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been advertised. Such notice in the Home News Tribune, the Asbury Park Press, the Board Office, the schools, and on Cablevision Channel 118 and Verizon Files Channel 24, and by filing such notice with the Township Clerk. This meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. The Board will take formal action on payment of bills and other agenda items. Mr. Merritt.
Thank you, Mr. Giordano. The Old Bridge Township Board of Education acknowledges that the law of this state establishes that members of the public, including members of the board, have the right to record public board meetings using audio or video recording devices, provided that that act of recording does not interfere with the business of this public board meeting. Therefore, the board makes it known that any such recording is to be considered a private recording of the individual and in no manner represents the official record of this board. The board therefore takes no responsibility for such private recording and completely disavows any future use.
Roll call.
Ms. D'Antono?
Here.
Ms. Jodry?
Present.
Ms. Lent?
Here.
Mr. Marqueta?
Here.
Mr. Slade?
Here.
Mr. Singh?
He was in a fender accident car. He seemed okay, but he was told by his company to go to the hospital. He was going to call me back, and I haven't heard from him.
Mr. Silikowski?
Here.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
And Mr. Giordano?
Here.
Quorum exists.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Who would like to read the Code of Ethics corner for next week?
I'll do it.
Yep, thank you. Okay, approval of minutes, item number 1. Any questions or discussion? Okay. We'll have our report of the student representative to the board. Recognition, item number 1. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, we have 3 retirees coming up this month, and I will go over that next week. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will have superintendent's report, progress towards goals, and correspondence. Did you want to say anything this week, Mr. Zuna?
Sure. Next week's superintendent's report will be our state assessment report. And I just wanted to take this opportunity because I noticed some changes in some of the upcoming meeting dates and some new meeting dates added. So maybe during my time here, if the chairs of those committees want to at least add anything, curriculum was changed. The date is now going to be October 26th, which is a Thursday, correct?
It's on a Thursday, yes.
Okay. And then we have scheduled a policy meeting where we'll look at existing policies and some new policy alerts that have come out, and that'll be on prior to the board meeting on November 14th as a Tuesday. So that's are 2 of the updates we have now.
Thank you. Any correspondence, Mr. Mayor? Okay. We'll also have our special committee reports. Do any board members want to talk about anything this week? Okay. Moving on to...
Mr. Giordano, so the policy meeting, that will be prior to the November 14th at 6 p.m.? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Giordano, you said the curriculum is 1026?
Yes.
Isn't that?
That goes with Atlantic City, the workshops?
The workshop ends usually that morning.
So you run back?
We're going to rush back. We'll make sure we give the taxpayers all their money's worth that day.
Okay.
Yeah, I set that meeting up because so many things are going on at this time of the year, so that was the only date available. I set back from the convention. Ladies, you got to get ready for it. Thank you.
Moving on to hearing of the residents on agenda items only. Okay, no policy items this month. Okay, curriculum and professional development, item number 1, voting for approval this week. Can I have a motion?
Lent will move it.
Jody,
Danton-
Jody will second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Antono?
Yes.
Ms. Jodry?
Yes.
Ms. Lent?
Yes.
Mr. Giordano?
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
And the remaining items 2 through 6. Any questions or discussion? Finance, item number 1, voting on tonight. Can I have a motion?
Lent will move it. Danton will second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Antono?
Yes.
Ms. Jodry?
Yes.
Ms. Lent?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Giordano?
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
And the remaining items 2 through 15. Any questions or discussion? No items under athletics this week. Non-certificated personnel office, items 1 through 3. Any questions or discussion? Non-certificated personnel operational, items 1 through 4. Any questions or discussion? Non-certificated personnel other, item number 1. Can I have a motion?
Jody will move.
Lent will second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Ms. D'Antono?
Yes.
Ms. Jodry?
Yes.
Ms. Lent?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
And Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
And the remaining items 2 through 8. Any questions or discussion? Certificated personnel, items 1 through 3. Can I have a motion?
Danton will move.
Marqueta seconds.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Jodry?
Yes.
Ms. Lent?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Antono?
Yes.
Mr. Giordano?
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 3 pass.
And the remaining items 4 through 17. Any questions or discussion? Okay. No items under non-certificated personnel transportation. Transportation, item number 1. Any questions or discussion? Supplies, equipment, and services, items 1 through 6. Any questions or discussion? Miscellaneous items 1 through 10. Any questions or discussion? Okay, board secretary and board business, item number 1. Any questions or discussion? Okay, we'll move on to hearing of residents on any school district issue. Yeah.
Good evening. Dan Finney, Aberdeen. Recently, in talking about issues affecting our kids in school, someone said, people just don't care anymore, and parents aren't involved. After thinking about this, I realized that many people like myself had a great experience in public schools, and we just expect it to be likewise for our kids. We get to know the teachers and principal in elementary school. We go to school events and then sports as they get older. But most of us never even thought of going to a school board meeting. We generally trust the teachers and administrators, probably to a fault. So it isn't that we don't care, it's that until recently for myself, we overwhelmingly don't know what has been happening or how blurred the lines have become between education and indoctrination. We see and interact with great teachers, but again, don't realize how the tentacles of an extreme state apparatus have encroached on local governance and parental rights. But you board members do know what's going on, and you are the stopgap on our behalf, because so many parents are not aware and are busy with dual income families and all the complexities of raising kids. You have a window of opportunity to assert your rightful authority as a local school board and follow the Hanover example, along with a wave of other districts across the state who have already followed or have it on the agenda right now to follow, and push back on government overreach in the best interests of our children. I implore you, please put Policy 5756 on the agenda for your next meeting. Please use the discernment and courage you displayed in voting down the outrageous and inappropriate curriculum guidance, and do the same with this even worse policy guidance. I think you will be on the right side of history. Thank you.
Anyone else hearing of residents?
Here, Ron Mack, Society Hill, Old Bridge. I want to thank you for your service, for what you're doing. This is a very important position that all of you are in. I would agree with the last speaker. We've been to several school board meetings, including Hanover, several of them, and 5756 is flipping like pancakes all over New Jersey, and there's reasons for it. It's a bad policy. It's not mandatory. It was portrayed as mandatory, and it's in fact, that's a lie. So if you don't remove it at this time and take the opportunity to, it stays in place de facto, just like the school board meeting here a year ago, where if you don't vote something out, it stays in place de facto. So I would say take the opportunity and remove 5756 for first reason, parental rights, but many others. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Caleb Hartman. I am from Old Bridge. I'm 16 years old. I grew up here, and I'm here to speak out against Policy 5756. There's a quote here by transgender activist Blair White that's very applicable in this case. Transgender children are like vegan cats. We all know who's making the lifestyle choices. Unfortunately, policies like 5756 open the door for others to manipulate children into thinking they are of the opposite gender and deny them a normal childhood. People like Chloe Cole, who are detransitioning from previous gender identity, believe their gender identity was manipulated by people who profited from gender transitioning. As a teenager, it's sad and disheartening that people can justify transgender care for minors as gender-affirming care. Policy 5756 essentially boils down to the belief that transgender students deserve secrecy, not who could be abusive to their children. However, child abuse is not transgender specific. Unfortunately, children are abused for many reasons, all of them unreasonable and horrible. However, we shouldn't allow for the manipulation of impressionable children because a parent could be abusive. And we also cannot allow people to manipulate children transition, whether socially or medically, because that has long-term consequences. We need to be aware that there is a lot of social stigma around identifying as transgender, and many people are using this to their own perverted advantage. Men who self-identify as transgender have entered female spaces with the intent to sexually harass women. As I'm sure you all agree, this doesn't represent all trans women, but it still necessitates the need for female protection. In the event of such a situation, Policy 5756 still stands and does not require the school to let the parents know about their gender identity different from what they identified in as birth. In conclusion, I am here to recommend the board strike down Policy 5756. We, as a society, have a duty to help our children succeed in the best way possible. We need to best protect the youngest of us by keeping them far away from Policy 5756. In conclusion, there's a quote by Kofi Annan, a Ghanaian diplomat who I very strongly agree with. There is no trust more sacred than the one the world holds with children, and there is no duty more important than ensuring that their rights are respected, their welfare is protected, and their lives are free from fear and want, and they can grow up in peace. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
Good evening. My name's Kim Lindley. I am a taxpayer. I am a former special education teacher. I'm from Old Bridge, and my 2 children went to these schools. My concern as a teacher, a former teacher, is the communication lines that lay between the parent and the teacher. Because as a parent, you're supposed to be communicating the lines, and the teacher, you're daily assessing to make sure a child's not neglected, if a child is acting out of the ordinary. So generally, if the child is, your first thought of reasoning, besides taking the data, is you contact the parent. So you need clear lines of communication. If you break the trust of not having in this one specific issue, it should transcend to others. And another information that I was looking up at the library is that the frontal cortex debate is out on that as far as complex issues, 25 to 30. That these decisions that they're making now, they don't understand the risk management of it as far as the consequence, what could happen. So for this person, the risk management says the ability to assess a risky situation and determine whether they result in long-term benefit is a byproduct of your prefrontal cortex. This was a poor at assessing risk may undergo developmental prefrontal range. The ability to turn down immediate gratification for long-term reward is a result of this range. So in other words, even as a teenager, they don't even know what they want to do. So how can you put this on a child who's younger, and they just look up to the teacher, and then they look up to the parents? But as a teacher, you know, is the parent going to accept what I say? I thought about everything I wrote. And the same vice versa, if this goes through, when does the parent really know? The honesty and the connection, the trust. So, and who sacrifices the most is the child. Because we all want the well-being of the child. But they can't communicate. They're in our hands from 0 to 18. And we all know if you have adults at 18, they're not always adults, even though it says it on paper. They can drive, they can vote, but they can't do everything. So it's a pleasure for us, for me to listen, and that, I'm getting all confused. Hold on, let me go back. It's a pleasure for me to be here to stand for teachers who may see the same way I do or who don't, or parents. I didn't get involved in my child's Board of Ed meetings because I thought everything was fine. But now I have the time. So now I may have grandchildren, whoever else. But if I have knowledge of the assessment of children, and as a parent, I mean, there has to be a certain boundary line drawn, and trust is key. So I just want to thank you for your time and everything that you're doing, and I hope that you repeal it in regards for the children, and that we can have communication lines. Because that's what we want. We want to be able to trust. I want to be able to drop my kids off and feel at peace. At the same vein, I want that parent to feel like they're in the good hands of a teacher who has their child's best needs at heart. So thank you for your time very much.
Hi, good evening. My name is Terry Esposito. I'm a Howell resident. I have 4 boys and I have grandbabies now. And I am concerned also about the condition that we're facing with 5756. I have something to read to you guys from the American Association of Physicians and Surgeons.
Can you lower your microphone, like bend it there you go. So
Better?
they complain at home that he can't hear us.
Okay. So they are addressing a situation that was amendments that were passed in August 2nd of 2023. They wrote a letter on August 15th to the New Jersey State Board of Education. This policy mirrors 5756. We, the Association of the American Physicians and Surgeons, founded in 1943, including its member physicians who care for many thousands of patients in New Jersey, urged the board to immediately reverse the amendments for the following reasons. The amendments are not based on science, but instead on ever-changing sociological ideas and political influence. Biology dictates that there are two sexes of mammals and humans, males and females. Publicly funded entities straying away from basic science into such ideologies will clearly help or harm and not help our children. There's been an explosive increase in children who identify in the construct of gender different from sex at an age where identity is easily malleable and brain development is not fully concluded. The board's actions risk further exacerbating this harmful trend. Why is the trend harmful? Far too often, these children are pressured into life-altering treatments that have little scientific evidence of their long-term safety and efficacy. Recommendations for these interventions rely on an abundance of claims that are not backed by evidence, explains a peer-reviewed summary of studies of subsequent mental health outcomes. This raises questions about whether physicians can even ethically and legitimately obtain informed consent from patients, particularly minor children, being prescribed puberty blockers or undergoing surgical interventions for gender confusion. In November 2022, an investigation published by the New York Times found that concerns are growing among medical professionals about the long-term consequences of these drugs on crucial bodily systems like brain development and bone strength. 80% to 95% of gender dysphoric youth emerge physically and psychologically intact after passing through puberty without social affirmation. American medicine and schools should inform and team up with parents to seek help, not overlay and drive artificial paths to hormonal and surgical panaceas. Furthermore, public schooling is the right of all citizen taxpayers who are mandated to fund it. Schools are necessary to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. They have expanded to biology and other sciences. They have no mandate to teach fluid, ever-changing social, multi-influential societal constructs or political missions, especially to parental, dependent minors. Children, boys and girls, are indeed equal under the law, but unique and unequal in physical characteristics and skills predisposition. This, yet, is another reason why biological male and female sports should remain separate to promote fairness and competition due to sex-related physical features and neurology. Additionally, we want to take this opportunity to oppose policy alerting parents of a minor child's gender confusion. We are perplexed as to why anyone would take any position other than empowering families and partnering with parents. This is a dangerous position, potentially placing caring, dedicated teachers in an adversarial relationship with the very people they are here to support. While privileged health information must be kept in the strictest confidence from other people and entities, it must be shared freely with parents who have ultimate responsibility for the upbringing of their own children. The most important takeaway here is that no information can be properly withheld from a child's parents, particularly and especially when it comes to the medical and mental health of their children. The current New Jersey BOE disruptive amendments will create an adversarial relationship between child and parent, parent and teacher, and potentially fueling a dangerous and life-threatening environment. And I just want to finish up with just this one quick idea here, that these are the 45 goals of communism that were written in March of 1961 in The Naked Communist, read to the congressional record by Albert S. Hurlong in 1963. These 45 goals are pretty frightening, and number 26 is present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. And number 41, emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of parents, attribute prejudices, mental blocks, and retarding of children to suppressive influence of parents. That's communism.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, last call. Closing hearing of the residents. All right, moving on to old business.
Can I just comment on that,
yeah,
so there's
yep,
some
go ahead.
clarity? So there was lots of, or several emails that came back from Mr. President, from the board, and our attorney, and our policy chair, Mr. Slade, and just to update for everyone so they're all on the same page coming out of this. So the board is not ignoring the request for that, but similar to the wisdom instilled by Mr. Solikowski last year when the curriculum meeting was first set to meet in the beginning of August, Mr. Solikowski wanted to push it away further so that parents who are on vacation would have the opportunity to have the transparency to attend the meeting, have the meeting fully advertised with its intent and its agenda so that everybody has an opportunity to discuss it, hear about it on both sides of the policy. So it's very clear that policy 5756 does have some miscommunication and errors in reporting coming out of Strauss-Esme and the Department of Education, and that's something that everyone should locally have the right to review as parents and as citizens, and to do so in a way that you have a meeting that's fully constructed around the idea of policy and specifically to the policy that's advertised. So that's why the board is doing that in their mission of being very transparent as the public is asked, and dedicating the policy meeting, which is it's a very thick policy meeting. There's a lot of updates that have come out, but again, that is on November 14th. So the action won't take place at a board meeting where it's not advertised for the public and then not everybody gets to have their voice heard. So everyone who wants to attend that will probably do that in a venue that's large enough to hear everyone, like we did with the curriculum meeting, and give you the opportunity to discuss and share. And then the findings of that policy meeting will then be reported and take action at the subsequent board meeting where policies are adopted, amended, or eradicated. So that is the plan going forward. So everyone, you have been heard. The board is not ignoring you, but doing so in a way that is within the board policy and the mission of transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board members? Old business?
I do. I have a couple of things. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize SEPTA, the Special Education PTA. They worked with the manager of Staples in Morganville, and he supported our district by donating the following supplies to staff and students: 300 individual boxes of 5 Crayola products for each student, and 1,000 individual boxes of 20 office supplies each per box for staff. SEPTA then partnered with the OBEA to distribute the supplies, and I just wanted to mention that Larry Goldberg is a huge supporter of special education and values his partnership with our SEPTA team here in Old Bridge Public Schools. I also wanted to mention that I had the privilege of attending a Voorhees PTA meeting. They invited me, and when somebody invites me, I like to try my best to be able to go. They had a couple of really good programs that Dr. Ferry reported out on. This was on Monday, October 2nd. They have a social skills lunch bunch, and all the staff members that work with these groups are volunteering their time to do so. The 2 staff members that work with the lunch bunch is Miss Lauren Pisheria. Oh, okay, that's what he said. And Voorhees guidance counselor. Oh, and that's her. And then I also wanted to mention that Dr. Ferry also talked about an impressive student teacher, Ms. Mia Alcorn, and she's working under the supervision of Ms. Jillian Patty. They're doing social skills after school group every Thursday. Again, both volunteers. They work with a group of students in their class, and they're both volunteer to do this each week with students. There's a bus safety monitor program, and that is run by Mr. Andrew Hassenstab. He's also volunteering his time to do that. He works with 5th grade students, working on their leadership positions on the school bus. Then there's a Voorhees student mentoring program. There are 17 volunteer staff members who serve as mentors, and they meet with students. They do not meet with students they don't teach, so they don't have prior relationships with them throughout the school year, in addition to the one-to-one weekly student mentoring, they also hold group activities every 4 to 6 weeks during lunch and recess, and I would like to just mention the 17 staff members. So this is Dr. Ferry's report, and Miss Lauren, Miss Francine
Per
Panos, Miss Alexandria Lassen, Miss Stephanie Miola, Miss Danielle Pero, Dr. John Ticcio, Miss Michelle Miller, Miss Stephanie Carlson, Miss Shannon Rosenbaum, Miss Danielle Hardish, Miss Melissa Andrish, Miss Janice Liddy, Miss Julian Patty, Miss Heather Sanft, and Miss Lisa Cusimano, and Miss Taylor Diamond. In Dr. Ferry's report, he also talked about the results of the New Jersey state tests, and every single grade, 3, 4, and 5, showed the results of every single grade for grades 3, 4, and 5 were well above state average, all in double digits for both math and ELA. So I thought that was really important because I know a lot of people are concerned about learning loss. So that was really good news, and I really appreciate that they invited me to their meeting.
Thank you. Any other board members?
We're finally having a meeting which will hopefully pass in November with the 5756 is modified, rejected, whatever the proper legal issue will be. I only have 2 months to do this, November and December, so please get it done because I leave the board on December 31st. So I certainly want that to happen, and I will work for that happening. The other issue is, I think that going into next year, based on the fact that Dr. Ferry had been at Cheesequake School for quite a while, and he had taken that school, which is a Title I school, to blue ribbon status in his period of time. His main skill is he's got his doctorate in math, and obviously he took that school, which is half kids basically who are from free or reduced lunch, largely, all the qualifications there, and made it the second strongest academic school in the township. So kudos to him, and I wouldn't have expected anything less from my personal experience as a parent of Cheesequake. The other thing I would suggest is certainly with the kind of numbers that were just expressed by Mrs. Jadri, we should have a loss learn committee that he can be somewhat of an advisor to. He's been so successful on math in 2 schools. District-wide, I think the current score is that we have only 33% of our kids, all 12 grades, who are considered totally okay. The number should be reversed. It should be 2/3 versus 1/3, not 1/3, overwhelmed, by the 2/3 who are not. Reading is not so bad, but math. So if a kid goes to the bank, he left his phone home, so he can't count. He can't sign his signature because everybody's signing X, unless they have cursive. So these are skills that they're important, and I'd like to see a permanent committee until we are back to where we should be. Now, New Jersey's one of the 3 strongest states in the country for education, along with Connecticut and Massachusetts. But in the world, among the developed countries, we're a nightmare, and that's something we need to have a higher target for. So that's what I would like to see happen going forward, because we're still not moving fast enough, getting back to where we should be. Thank you.
Any other board members?
Can I just want to update that comment. Dr. Ferry, for the past 7 years, has headed up our Soar the Scores initiative, where he provides support, scoring, and instruction for administrators across all 11 elementary schools. That's been at least 7 years or more.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I just want to say great candidates night last week, and good luck to all the candidates. Moving on to new business. Any board members, new business?
This Thursday, October 12th, the Special Education Parent Advisory Group is hosting a conversation with the candidates. I invite everybody to come out and discuss special education in our district, and some of the topics that they're going to talk about are inclusion, parent involvement, communication, and improving outcomes for all students. So again, that's this Thursday, October 12th at Glen School at 7 o'clock.
Thank you. And tomorrow at the high school main campus cafeteria, there is a college fair from 6:30 to 8:30. It's open to all high school students and their parents. See what's out there, see best bang for your buck, save as much money as possible. If you go to Kane, like I said, I could get you out in 2 years. You just have to have discipline and a plan. And any other questions, you could always email me. Thank you. Any other board members want to say anything? Okay, we'll be going into executive session for matters rendered confidential by state or federal law. We'll adjourn from there. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
Lent will move it. D'Antino will second.
Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the board will go into executive session at 8:06 p.m. Thank you and have a good night.